Grandma's heartbreaking journey of pain, revenge, and triumph will leave you speechless. Clara's life had once sparkled with laughter and warmth, a vibrant tapestry woven with the joys of being a grandmother. But now, as the sun dipped low in the autumn sky, casting ghostly shadows on the walls of her quaint little cottage, that tapestry lay torn and frayed. Betrayal had entered her life like a thief in the night, stealing the very essence of her happiness. A heavy silence. She could still hear her late husband's deep, hearty chuckle, the sound mixing with the haunting notes of regret. It felt as if the walls themselves were closing in, a suffocating reminder that the festive spirit now lay buried beneath layers of heartbreak. A sudden knock echoed through the quiet air, jarring her thoughts. Clara hesitated, her heart pounding, fear lacing through her veins. She opened the door to find a figure from her past, her estranged nephew, Thomas, his face a grim reflection of turmoil. "I need to talk," he said, urgency drenching his words. The fleeting look in his eyes sent a chill down her spine. Inside, the air crackled with tension as he unveiled a truth that threatened to topple the fragile peace she clung to. "It's about your father," he began, his voice low and shaky. Clara felt the room spin. Her father's shadow loomed like a specter, whispering tales of family secrets long buried. The words tumbled from Thomas's lips, each one heavier than the last, unraveling not just the fabric of her family history, but setting forth a wave of anger and a thirst for vengeance that stirred in her chest. He spoke of a betrayal that entwined their family with a ruthless rival, a man whose name was uttered only in hushed tones around town. With each revelation, the memories of her father's laughter turned sour, replaced by visions of treachery. Clara found herself morphing, caught between the ghost of the woman she was and the warrior she knew she had to become. As the candles flickered in the dim light, Clara's resolve solidified. Could facing this past be her opportunity to reclaim her dignity? Or would her quest for justice lead her deeper into a world of pain? With Thomas at her side, they plotted a course through this new, treacherous territory. Each plan drawn out held the promise of potentially recovering not just their lost legacy, but also the joy that had been stolen from her. It was a mix of fear and hope, a tightness in her throat that signaled she was either stepping into a storm or awakening a dormant power within. Clara stood at the doorway again, the cool breeze ruffling her hair, listening to the whispers of long-forgotten voices. Her heart raced. Was this the turning point, or the end of everything she held dear? The leaves danced ominously around her, hinting that whatever lay ahead was just beginning. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? Love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! Clara stood at the doorway, the autumn breeze teasing her hair, her heart pounding. The leaves rustled like whispers around her, drawing her in deeper. The weight of the past sat heavy in her chest as she turned back to Thomas. "Tell me everything," she urged, her voice a mix of fear and resolve. But before he could share more, they were interrupted. A loud crash resounded from the back of the cottage, shattering the tense air like glass. Clara's eyes widened. What was that? She instinctively grabbed Thomas's arm, both anchored and alarmed. "Stay here," he ordered, moving towards the noise. But Clara felt a rush of adrenaline. She followed him, stepping lightly across the threshold into the shadows of her home. The kitchen looked fine at first glance, but as they drew closer to the window, the sight made her blood run cold. Outside, beneath the gnarled oak tree that had stood tall through all her family's troubles, was a man. He looked familiar, his silhouette casting a long shadow against the fading light. "Is that?" Clara whispered, feeling her heart drop. "It can't be." With dread growing, she stepped closer, and as the man turned, her breath caught. It was Peter, her husband. Clara had buried him 5 years ago. She could almost see the twinkle in his eye, as if he had never left. "No," Thomas muttered, stepping backward. "This can't be happening!" But Clara knew what she saw. The depth of his gaze sent shivers down her spine. A familiar warmth flooded her heart before twisting into freezing fear. He shouldn't be here, and yet there he was, alive and standing in the twilight. Suddenly, Peter raised his hands, signaling them to stop. "Clara, please," he called, his voice a haunting echo of their past. "I can explain everything." "Explain?" Clara's voice trembled. "You're supposed to be dead." "Not dead, just gone for a while," Peter said, the words wrapping around her like the bitter chill of autumn. "There's much you don't know. About your father, about why I had to leave." It sounded like a script from a thriller, something pulled straight from a late-night movie. But this wasn't fiction. Clara's world spiraled. Betrayal twisted into betrayal, and her mind raced. Had her father's sins entangled Peter in some grotesque way? "Thomas, what is happening?" Clara cried. Her heart raced like a thunderstorm, wild and uncontrollable. Without answering, Thomas took a step forward, his expression shifting from horror to something darker. "You knew, didn't you?" he accused. Locking eyes with Peter. "You knew all along." Clara's confusion deepened. "Knew what?" "You were part of it," Thomas spat, venomous and raw. "You knew why he left, why he faked his death. You have to tell her." Time froze. Clara's pulse thundered in her ears. Thomas, her own flesh and blood, was unraveling secrets meant to stay buried. She felt like the walls of her cottage were collapsing around her. Everything she thought she held dear, love, family, loyalty, began to crack. Peter's face fell, his voice breaking. "Keeping the truth from you was meant to protect you." "Protect me?" Clara echoed, disbelief clouding her thoughts. "This is the truth? It's all a lie?" The air thickened, a storm brewing within the heart of her home. Every twist of fate, every choice that had led her here, now felt like a cruel joke. As anger swelled within her, she struggled to find her footing. Clara felt like a ship amidst a raging sea, ready to capsize. "What do you mean?" she demanded, shaking with a mix of rage and confusion. "What's really going on?" The night loomed, and with it more questions surfaced, darker ones. Clara sensed the storm had only begun. What had her life truly been built upon, and what secrets were waiting to rise from the ashes? The night loomed heavy around them, a dark cloak of confusion and dread. Clara's heart thudded in her chest like a drum, each beat punctuating the air thick with silence. Everything was spinning. Peter, alive, and Thomas, her own nephew, igniting a bitter storm of accusations. Protect you? Peter's voice echoed like a haunting refrain. You think leaving was easy? There were forces. Forces? Thomas scoffed, shaking his head. You put her in the dark, and for what? Your secrets? Your shame? The tension pulsated, every word adding weight to the fragile atmosphere, thick and churning. Clara felt like a marionette, strings tangled, caught in a web of deception. "Stop, both of you!" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. But the moment was about to spiral beyond her control. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, a low rumble swelling to a deafening roar. The floorboards of the cottage buckled, splintering and cracking, as if the house itself was protesting the weight of the truths unfolding. Clara stumbled, grabbing the kitchen counter to steady herself. "What's happening?" she cried, panic threading through her voice like a chaotic melody. Then, without warning, a bright flash erupted outside, illuminating the scene as if it were midday. Clara squinted, shielding her eyes. And when she looked again, the silhouette beneath the oak tree shifted. Something, or someone, was emerging from the shadows, their form evolving through the swirling mist of chaos. "Clara!" a voice bellowed, cutting through the night. A figure rushed forward, a woman with cascading dark hair and eyes wild with panic. "Your mother! She's alive! You have to believe me!" The revelation hit Clara like a punch to the gut. Her mother, alive? But she died years ago, in an accident that had shattered her family. "No, that's impossible," she stammered, disbelief splintering her mind. But the woman pressed on, words tumbling out like a flood. "They needed her. Your father. He did something terrible. I was there, Clara. They took her. I couldn't save her. But she's here. She's been here all along." The intensity of the moment reached a fever pitch. Clara felt her breath hitch in her throat. Her past was unraveling, threads hanging in shambles. She glanced again at Peter, whose face paled, body rigid as he processed the chaos unfolding. No, she can't be," he whispered, the color draining from his cheeks. Thomas's expression morphed from rage to shock, the accusations gone, replaced by confusion. "What are you saying?" he demanded, urgency laced in his words. Clara felt her legs weaken, almost sinking to the floor. Is she telling the truth? She turned to Peter, seeking answers, desperately grasping at hope amidst the rubble of betrayal. He opened his mouth, but the words never came. The woman seized the moment, pushing through the chaos. "We have to go, now! They're coming for all of us!" A desperate instinct kicked in, and Clara shot a glance out the window. The shadows around the cottage seemed to thicken, coiling like serpents, ready to pounce. "Who's coming?" she breathed, fear cascading over her. "Enemies of your father!" the woman shouted, panic driving her words. "They know the past is about to rise up. And it includes all of you." Clara stood frozen, a storm brewing within her. The world she thought she knew shattered, scattering like the leaves caught in the wind. What other truths lay hidden? And, in the tightening grip of uncertainty, what chance did? They have against the ghosts of a past that had come clawing back to life. The shadows stretched long and foreboding, the air thick with the weight of unsolved mysteries, as Clara locked eyes with Peter again. "We have to figure this out together," she whispered, a thread of determination weaving through her fear. But as they turned to flee the cottage, the ground shook once more, louder this time. A jarring crack filled the air. The door burst open, and in spilled darkness, an ominous swell of figures retreating from their past, ready to reclaim whatever had been lost. Clara's heart raced. What would this night reveal? Would it bring salvation or doom? The shadows spilled into the cottage like a tide, swallowing the warm light and filling the air with an icy dread. Clara's heart raced, thrumming against her ribs. "What do you mean they're coming?" she demanded, desperation lacing her voice. The woman, frantic and wild-eyed, pointed back at the door. "They know you're here. They're hunting for you." Clara felt the ground shift underfoot as her world plunged further into chaos. "Who are they?" she pushed, feeling the lump in her throat grow. "What do they want?" "Your father's enemies." The woman's voice trembled. "They think you and Thomas are the key to everything." Peter's face turned pale, his eyes wide with horror. "Enemies? Clara, we have to leave. Now!" Before Clara could react, the door flew open with a violent crash. Figures cloaked in. Darkness spilled into the room, their features obscured. A chilling silence enveloped them. The only sound, a low hum of warning crawling along Clara's skin. "Get behind me!" Peter shouted, moving to shield her. But his bravery surged against the tide of panic. The figures stepped closer, a mix of faces strikingly familiar and disturbingly foreign. "Did you really think we'd let this go?" one of the shadows sneered, his voice cold and cutting. "Who are you?" Clara cried, fear clutching at her throat, binding her voice. But she felt the answers hovering, tantalizingly out of reach. And then the unexpected happened. From the depths of the darkness, a figure stepped forward, a face emerging like a ghost from the mist. Clara's breath hitched in. Her throat. It was her mother, but not the version of her mother she remembered. This woman looked younger, stronger, with a fire in her eyes that pierced through the shadows. Clara. Her mother's voice was soft but filled with urgency. "I need you to understand. Nothing is as it seems." "What? You can't be." Clara stumbled back, the very ground beneath her shifting. Peter's gaze flickered between Clara and her mother, realization dawning like a storm. "What's happening?" he whispered, barely audible. "Your father? He didn't just lose her. He traded her," the woman continued, her voice steady, despite the chaos around them. "Clara, I was taken, but I've been fighting ever since." The walls of Clara's reality collapsed around her. "Fighting. You were alive all this time?" "Yes," her mother insisted, emotions swirling in the air like a tempest. "And there's more, Clara. Peter was never what he seemed, and neither was your father." "What do you mean?" The words fell from Clara's lips like a desperate plea, raw with confusion. But before her mother could answer, the figures surged forward, and the room erupted into chaos. Clara clutched Thomas's arm tightly, her mind racing. "What is happening?" The woman turned to them, urgency pouring from her. "We need to go, now. They want to erase everything, everyone." As Clara moved, the world around her whirled. Her legs felt heavy, anchors in a storm. The shadows reached for her, clawing at memories and truths she had. believed so fervently. The door slammed shut, trapping them inside. "Don't let them in," Thomas yelled, pushing against the burgeoning tide of darkness. Clara could barely breathe. Was her mother alive? And Peter? Was he actually behind all of this? "Clara, the truth is in the dark." Her mother's voice came back, cutting through the chaos. "Only you can decide what light you let in." The shadows thickened, swirling with anger. Something in Clara snapped. She wouldn't be a pawn anymore. "What do you want?" she shouted, heart pounding. And then, as if answering her call, the shadows parted, just enough for a figure to step through. Clara froze, eyes widening in disbelief. It was someone she never expected to see. Her younger self, standing defiantly, a mirror to the chaos within her. "You think you know everything?" the younger Clara taunted, her voice filled with edgy defiance. "You don't even know who you really are." Time seemed to freeze, the air electric with revelation. Who was she supposed to be? What had been taken from her? A flood of emotions crashed over Clara, battling against each other, each one a question waiting to be answered. As the figures drew closer, looming like shadows from her past, the storm raged within her, swirling into a tempest of uncertainty and fear. "Clara," her mother urged, but it was all too much. "The questions are just beginning. You're not ready for what's to come." And with that, everything shattered. The remnants of her reality tumbled away. She could almost hear echoes of the truth screaming out, begging to be heard. The question loomed. What really lay hidden in the shadows? What crushing force had she awakened? And could she survive the answer? The shadows danced around them, swirling with a life of their own. Clara felt the weight of her past pressing down, an anchor pulling her into darkness. "What do you mean?" she gasped, desperate for clarity. The darkness inside the cottage thickened, every breath she took filled with dread. "You don't know who you really are," her younger self taunted, eyes glinting with defiance. "You've been running from your own truth." "Enough!" Clara shouted, frustration erupting. "I don't have time for tricks." But deep down, the surge of panic said otherwise. The ground beneath her felt like sand slipping away. How had it come to this? Then reality shifted. The air crackled, and a blinding light burst from the shadows, illuminating the room. Clara squinted as the figures recoiled, their faces bathed in a harsh glow. And in that instant, a scream pierced through the air. "Look out!" Thomas shouted, pushing Clara behind him. The darkness surged like a wave, and the newcomers lunged forward. Clara braced herself, heart pounding in a dizzying rhythm. She was about to fight or fly, but before she could react, the light flickered and blurred. Then, everything went silent. The noise of the ruckus faded into an eerie calm. Clara blinked, and when she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the cottage. She stood in an empty, vast space, shimmering with stars. Confusion crashed over her like waves. Where was everyone? She turned, panic barely contained inside her. "Thomas? Mom? Peter?" she cried, her voice echoing in the void. Then she saw them. All of them. Every face. They stood side by side in a circle, watching her, their expressions like stone. Peter, Thomas, and the shadowy figure of her mother, eyes wide, but not in fear, in awe. "Clara, you must understand." Peter's voice broke through, calm yet urgent. "We aren't here to hurt you. You needed to see this." "What is this?" Clara demanded, searching their faces for assurance. But assurance was absent. "What did you do to me?" "Look deeper," Thomas urged, stepping forward, his face stricken. "You think you know your past? This is your true reality." Before she could ask what he meant, the stars around them shifted, showing scenes replaying like a movie across the universe. Clara gasped, the images projecting her life, but twisted. There were moments she had never known, dark and distorted, full of betrayal. Her father, alongside familiar faces, plotting in the shadows. Whispering secrets never meant to see the light of day. "Why didn't you tell me?" she shouted, tears burning in her eyes. "Why let me live in a lie?" But their expressions changed. Instead of guilt, there was a flicker of something far more unsettling. Fear, as if they were the ones in danger. "Clara, listen carefully," her mother finally spoke, her voice quaking. "We've been living under a curse. Your father, he's not the man you think he is." "What do you mean?" Clara's heart raced. "What curse?" Before anyone could answer, a rift opened above them, a gaping darkness that seemed alive, humming with power. Clara felt it calling to her, an intense pull toward its depths. Suddenly, a figure shot through the rift, a woman, ethereal and radiant, her presence like light breaking through fog. "Clara," the woman said, her voice soothing yet commanding, "it's time for the truth." The sky splintered, images of her life swirling wildly within the chaos. She felt a jolt, a connection between them, as if they shared a profound secret. "You are not just Clara. You are the key." The world trembled around her, the stars fading. And just as Clara felt her grip on reality pry loose, that haunting voice echoed through her being. "Only you can decide which path to take." And just like that, the light swallowed her whole. Clara gasped, consciousness slipping. What was the truth? Who was she supposed to be? The realization dawned like a thunderclap. Awakening of fear, deeper than the shadows that plagued her life. Could she manage to uncover it before it consumed her? What lay on the other side of that rift? And who was the mysterious woman that seemed to know her so intimately? Time hung in the air, and all Clara could do was brace herself for the answers that would redefine everything. Clara gasped as the light engulfed her, feeling warmth radiate as she blinked against the brightness. There, in this surreal expanse of stars, a haunting familiarity washed over her. The faces around the circle were filled with a mixture of hope and dread, and she could feel her heart racing with every pulse. "Clara," her mother began, sadness etched in every feature. "You must believe." But her mother's words broke off, interrupted by a rumbling roar echoing across the vast space. A crack appeared in the shimmering floor, lines fracturing like spider webs, splintering through the stars. "What's happening?" Clara felt her chest constrict, both from fear and the heavy question of who she truly was. The world trembled, and for an instant it felt as if this reality might collapse altogether. The void opened wider, and from the darkness surged a figure cloaked in shadows. Clara squinted, fear gripping her tightly. The figure floated closer, and as the whirling mass of shadows unraveled, Clara's stomach twisted in recognition. It was her father. "Dad?" she managed to ask, disbelief wrapping around her voice like a vine. How could it be? She had lost him long ago, and there he was, glancing at her with an intensity that almost felt loving, and yet darker than she remembered. He stepped forward, eyes dark, glimmering with a life and energy that sent a shiver down her spine. "Clara, you need to understand the truth. It was never what you thought." "Stop!" Peter exclaimed, stepping protectively between them, eyes wide. "You can't be here." "Why not? I'm not the one who kept secrets." Clara's voice cracked under the tension, the weight of her reality pressing down on her. But then her father held up a hand. "There isn't much time. The rift is unstable. It'll collapse unless you decide." He turned slowly to face her, shadows swirling around him. "You're the key. Your choice can seal this fate or break it." "Break what?" Clara's breath quickened with panic. "What are you talking about?" Suddenly, the ground beneath her erupted, and Clara stumbled, the stars swirling wildly, darkness threatening to swallow her whole. The shadows twisted around her father, growing more intense, consuming him inch by inch. "Dad!" Clara screamed, reaching out desperately. But as she did, everything shifted. Her father's face contorted in pain, and the shadows morphed violently. Then, without warning, bursts of light flared across the space, illuminating a terrifying image. A scene of her father. Not the loving parent she cherished, but a figure she barely recognized, involved with those dark forces. A puppet master in a cruel game. "No!" Clara ached to scream. "You can't be!" But as she looked closer, the truth crashed into her heart. The man she once adored was entwined with sinister motives, a betrayal soaked deep in lies. All of them, Peter, Thomas, her mother, they stood, frozen, witnessing her dawning realization. Clara's mind whirled, shaking her reality. Everything she trusted collapsed in on itself. She felt it all shift within her, a storm threatening to burst. "Clara," her mother said softly, fighting against the crushing realization. "You are stronger than this." "No!" Clara shouted back, anger and sorrow splayed across her face. "You were all part of it. I can't trust any of you." The tension pulsed as her words echoed across the void, rattling their fragile space. "You're just like him," she hurled, pointing fiercely at her father, whose eyes widened in shock, hurt rippling across his features. "No!" He reached for her, voice trembling with urgency. "I did it to protect you. You don't know." But as he spoke, the shadows dimmed, and a voice boomed from the rift, powerful and untamed. "Clara, choose your legacy wisely." Clara could feel her heart thrumming, caught in the storm of the unknown. Everything rested on her choice, her reality vibrating with the tension of the moment. And just then, the rift pulsed, and more figures emerged, horrifyingly familiar. Cloaked figures from her father's past. Her pulse quickened, dread filling her. Would they strike her down if she chose wrong? She hesitated. Chaos reigned within, relationships unspooled, and yet she felt the weight of hope rekindled by the person standing beside her. "No more secrets," she whispered to herself, determination hardening her resolve. "Clara, I need to," Peter started, reaching out. But before he could finish, Clara glanced back towards the rift, ready to confront the truth, and then she felt it. A sharp pain ripple in her chest, an all-consuming ache. "What's happening?" she cried, feeling weaker. The rift surged forward, ready to swallow her and her entire existence whole. Clara knew she had to decide, but the question lingered. If she chose to embrace this chaotic truth, would she survive the revelation? Would she peel back the layers and resurrect hope? Or plunge into the void, forever. Each heartbeat echoed louder, drawing her closer to an answer she might not want to hear. Clara gasped as the light engulfed her, feeling warmth radiate as she blinked against the brightness. There, in this surreal expanse of stars, a haunting familiarity washed over her. The faces around the circle were filled with a mixture of hope and dread, and she could feel her heart racing with every pulse. "Clara," her mother began, sadness etched in every feature, "you must believe." But her mother's words broke off, interrupted by a rumbling roar, echoing across the vast space. A crack appeared in the shimmering floor, lines fracturing like spiderwebs, splintering through the stars. "What's happening?" Clara felt her chest constrict, both from fear and the heavy question of who she truly was. The world trembled, and for an instant it felt as if this reality might collapse altogether. The void opened wider, and from the darkness surged a figure cloaked in shadows. Clara squinted, fear gripping her tightly. The figure floated closer, and as the whirling mass of shadows unraveled, Clara's stomach twisted in recognition. It was her father. "Dad?" she managed to ask, disbelief wrapping around her voice like a vine. How could it be? She had lost him long ago, and there he was, glancing at her with an intensity that almost felt loving, and yet darker than she remembered. He stepped forward, eyes dark, glimmering with a life and energy that sent a shiver down her spine. "Clara, you need to understand the truth. It was never what you thought." "Stop!" Peter exclaimed, stepping protectively between them, eyes wide. "You can't be here." "Why not? I'm not the one who kept secrets." Clara's voice cracked under the tension, the weight of her reality pressing down on her. But then her father held up a hand. "There isn't much time. The rift is unstable. It'll collapse unless you decide." He turned slowly to face her, shadows swirling around him. "You're the key. Your choice can seal this fate or break it." "Break what?" Clara's breath quickened with panic. "What are you talking about?" Suddenly, the ground beneath her erupted, and Clara stumbled, the stars swirling wildly, darkness threatening to swallow her whole. But although she felt trapped, there was a wild energy surging within her. It was almost as if something was awakening, something deep in her veins begging to surface. "Clara, listen!" her mother yelled, but the shadows were becoming unbearable, closing in like suffocating fog. Then, just as the darkness seemed to swallow her father whole, everything shifted in one horrifying heartbeat. A sharp crack cut through the air, and from the depth of the rift surged another figure, this one fierce and electric, like a bolt of lightning. "Clara!" the voice cried, sharp and strong. "You have to come with me now!" Clara squinted against the glare, trying to see who had the nerve to disrupt the chaos. As the figure stepped into the light, Clara's heart dropped. It was her twin sister. A sister she fought had died alongside her mother all those years ago. "Mia!" Clara gasped, disbelief coloring her voice. "Is it really you?" Mia nodded, urgency etched across her features. "There's no time. You need to understand everything." "But how? I don't." Clara's thoughts raced in a haze. She had spent years feeling like part of her was missing, wondering why she felt so incomplete. "Dad and Mom aren't who you think," Mia shouted above the clamor. "They're part of something much darker than you can imagine. The values you were raised with, they were all a lie." Clara's heart began to race, What do you mean? Your parents made a terrible deal to trade away the truth in exchange for power and safety. And they needed you. You're the vessel. Mia's words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, leaving Clara gasping. Peter stepped forward, eyes wide with horror. That's not true. Clara, don't listen to her. She's manipulating you. No, you're the one who has to be stopped, Mia retorted, eyes blazing. We can't let him control any of us anymore. The rift pulsed again as Clara stood frozen between the two, with shock echoing in her veins. Suddenly, the colors of the stars shifted, swirling into a chaotic storm around her. Every moment stretched, existing in dizzying slow motion. Clara's heart pounded against her ribcage. Who had she trusted? And who was telling the truth? As the figures clashed, darkness shoved its way through the rift, almost challenging Clara's resolve. Clara's hand shook. The truth hit her like a freight train. The person she thought was her enemy might also be her closest ally. But could she trust either one? Just then, the ground trembled again, and Clara knew she had to make a choice before it all crumbled. What could she possibly hold on to as both forces clamored around her? One look at Mia's desperate eyes and one at Peter's damaged pride made her head spin. It felt like the storm was pulling her in every direction at once. Could she step into the unknown and embrace the legacy that awaited her? And with that, she took a step forward, ready to either embrace her destiny or plunge into the abyss. Clara felt her heart race faster as she took that step forward. The rift pulsed, light and darkness intertwining, a whirlwind of energy almost alive. Memory and fate loomed ahead, beckoning her to embrace the truth. But just as she felt a crack of clarity starting to slice through the chaos, a cold chill swept across the expanse. "Clara, don't!" Peter shouted, panic surging through him. But the message came too late as the swirling maelstrom brightened, engulfing everything in its path. Suddenly, from the center of the chaos, a blinding flash erupted, leaving everyone momentarily blinded. When Clara blinked her vision clear, she found herself in a different kind of darkness. The stars vanished, and she stood face to face with a mirror, her own reflection, but it was off somehow, twisted. Her body flickered like a faulty light bulb, revealing glimpses of different costumes: warrior, thief, mother, and more. With a gasp, she stepped back. "What is this? What's happening?" Mia stepped forward, eyes wide, voice urgent. "Clara, focus! This is a glimpse into every life you could have lived." But Clara wasn't listening. Something was wrong. The reflection began to morph, beautiful yet grotesque. The flickering intensified, faces of other versions of herself converging around her. A haunting parade of what she could have been, each one wearing a different mask of pain. "Why are there so many?" she stammered, a knot tightening in her gut. "Because you are the heart of the storm," Mia yelled, frustration igniting her tone. "You can choose to switch realities or seal this one for good." "Seal? What do you mean, seal?" Clara's confusion bubbled to the surface as she felt gravity shift around her. And then, with a sudden roar, the reflection shattered, sharp shards of glass flying in every direction. Clara flinched, feeling a cut on her cheek as one sliver grazed her skin. Her blood dripped hot against the cold emptiness. "No!" Her father's voice rang out, fierce and trembling. "Clara, don't let it in! It will consume you!" Through her panic, she caught sight of a figure emerging from the wild shards, standing calmly amidst the chaos. It was a woman, regal and fierce. Clara's heart sank as she recognized her. It was herself, older, stronger, but with a coldness in her eyes that made her skin crawl. "Clara," the older version said with haunting clarity, "you've always had the power to choose. But choose incorrectly, and this reality crumbles into nothingness." The room froze. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "No, this can't be me." Mia shook her head in disbelief, voice trembling. "That's the truth you need to see. You've held on to so many lies." "Lies?" Clara whispered, confusion written clearly on her face. "What lies?" The older version stepped forward, authority radiating from her. "The path you walk, the families you've known, they are mere shadows. I am your true reflection, the one who made the decisions you fear now." "Stop!" Peter shouted, feeling the pressure of her gaze. "She's manipulating you." The older Clara extended her hand, a shimmering light coalescing around her palm. "Join me, sister. We can reign over the chaos together." Clara's heart echoed with worry as she glanced at her family. What is she saying? But before anyone could speak, the ground trembled and another figure stepped through the scattered shards. It was a man she had briefly known, someone brutally connected to the chaotic web of her family history, a familiar enemy. "Let's make this simple. Clara, you never had to fight for your place. You were born to control it," he roared, power imbued in his every word, filling the air with tension. Mia lunged forward, fear mingling with anger. "You think she'll side with you?" The moment hung thick, Clara's choice weighing heavily, uncertainty storming around her like a tempest. Suddenly, with an eruption of energy, Clara felt it, a surge of empowerment. Igniting within, she looked between her family and her twisted reflection, realization crashing down like a wave. "Enough! I choose to redefine this." And with those words, the world shifted violently. The dark figures around them faded into shadows. Clara felt a sharp break in her bones, an unbearable tension tearing her apart. She gasped, and the last thing she sensed was a tether snapping, flinging her forward to an unknown destiny. What had she unleashed in that moment? Who was she really meant to be? As she fell through the void, the only question echoing inside her was there even a way back? As Clara plunged through that endless void, a wild swirl of energy surrounded her. She felt a force pull her deeper into the darkness, wrapping around her like an embrace. But it wasn't comforting. It was suffocating. Her body tingled, and for a moment she feared she might lose herself entirely. Then, with a violent jolt, she landed hard on the ground, the weight of her truth crashing down like a wave. Clara blinked, adjusting her gaze to the dim lighting. The air felt electric, thick with tension and whispers that danced just out of her reach. "Clara," Mia's voice rang out, filled with desperation. "You're back! Are you okay?" But Clara couldn't answer. She was too busy trying to catch her breath. The ground beneath her felt solid, but reality crashed in like a thunderstorm. She panicked, scrambling to her feet, searching for her family, for answers. "What's going on? Where's everyone?" Mia reached for her, her expression twisted with worry. "You have to focus. They need you. The rift. Something's broken. You have to fix it." But Clara still felt dizzy. as if the ground was shifting beneath her feet again. "Fix what?" she cried, desperation biting at her words. "What did I unleash?" Suddenly, a rumble echoed, shaking the very air. A dark shadow unfurled from the corner of the room, lurching forward like a predator. Clara's heart raced, pounding against her chest. "What is that?" she shouted, fear clawing at her throat. Nia's expression shifted. She went pale, eyes wide with terror. "No, it can't be!" The shadows coalesced, forming a towering figure, cloaked in darkness. Clara's breath hitched as the shadowed form pulsated with energy, revealing something she hadn't expected. A familiar face, emerging from the depths of the dark. It was Peter. His eyes glowed with an otherworldly brightness, and he spoke, not with fear, but with a strange calmness that sent shivers down Clara's spine. "You shouldn't have done that, Clara." The words echoed, wrapping around her like chains. "Peter?" she stammered, confusion slicing through the air. "What's happening? You were gone." "No," he smiled, but there was something unsettling about it, something predatory. "I've been here all along." "What?" Clara's voice rose, filled with disbelief. "That's not possible." "Yes, it is," he said, his voice dripping with an eerie nonchalance. "I had to play the part of the humble husband, the loving father, but I'm afraid I'm not who you think I am. None of us are." Just then, Clara felt a cold rush of realization pour over her. "This isn't just about my family, is it?" "No," Peter replied smoothly, his smile broadening. "It's about our family, and about what you are meant to become." Clara's heart sank as shadows enveloped her surroundings again, drawing tight like a noose, making it hard to breathe. "What do you mean? What do you want from me?" "This isn't just survival, Clara. It's about power. The power that belongs to you," he said, stepping closer, revealing the darkness lurking behind his eyes. "Your destiny is greater than you know." "What are you saying?" Clara's voice faltered, each word pulling her deeper into an abyss of dread. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The pieces of the puzzle she hadn't seen fell into a grim picture. "You're not just my husband, you are." "Keeper of the old ways, yes," he interjected, his tone dripping with satisfaction. "And you're meant to reign, my dear, to reclaim what has been lost." In that moment, the room trembled with something raw and powerful, and Clara felt the ground beneath her pulse, alive and electric. Then, without warning, a new voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. "Not if I can help it." A figure stepped forward, someone Clara recognized immediately. It was her mother, but not as she remembered. This woman radiated strength. "You will not claim her," she said defiantly, eyes locked on Peter, fire igniting behind her gaze. "She is not yours to control." Clara froze, wrestling with the sudden shift in alliances, and her world tilted again. Her mother survived all this time? Confusion and dread washed over her in equal measure. "Mom?" she gasped, the shock mingling with a desperate spark of hope. Before anything else could be said, the shadows surged, growing restless and wild. Both menaces were ready to pounce. Clara felt caught in their storm, each heartbeat echoing the urgency of her next words. Was her true legacy darkness or light? Could she even choose? And as the shadows danced around her, closing in with every breath, all Clara could think was, how do you fight a battle when the enemy is also your blood? Clara stood at the precipice of chaos, her heart a drum in her chest, roaring against the swirling shadows. Every muscle strained as she faced the figure in front of her, the twisted reflection of her father. "You stole my past," she shouted, voice ringing with defiance. Peter stepped closer, his eyes darkened by fear, but a part of her still whispered confusion. "Clara, listen to me. This isn't what you think. I've protected you." "By lying?" she shot back, fury igniting her voice. "By stealing my truth?" The shadows surged, shifting around her like a living thing, and she caught the faint glimmer of her mother, fierce and unyielding. "You have the power within you, Clara. Trust yourself." Her mother's voice echoed, casting a shield against the encroaching figures. Clara felt the warmth of her family bolster her resolve. The chaotic energy surged again, urging her to embrace everything she now knew. "No more lies," she cried, standing her ground, heart pounding with each word. "I choose my path." The room trembled, shadows recoiling as if struck. The struggle was palpable, horrifying, and unmistakable. Clara lifted her arms, heart racing, drawing on the strength of every woman who had fought for truth before her. "I claim my legacy." Suddenly the rift began to shimmer, reflecting her emotions, raw, unfiltered. "Stop her!" Peter shouted, voice taut with panic. But he was too late. The energy around her exploded. Light erupted like a supernova, illuminating the darkness with a blinding brilliance. Clara felt the truth pouring into her, washing away the fear and pain, filling the empty spaces left by betrayal. The towering shadows screamed, dissipating into fragments of smoke, leaving only the whispers of what had once been. As the last traces of darkness cleared, Clara's heart filled with warmth. "Clara!" Mia's voice broke through, flooded with relief. She rushed forward, embracing Clara tightly. "You did it! You faced them!" Clara drew a ragged breath, her emotions swirling like the aftershocks of a storm. But the heaviness in her heart eased. "Is it over?" "No, just the beginning," her mother replied, stepping forward, wearing a proud smile. "You've opened a door to a new reality. It's now up to us to make it right." Clara turned to see Peter, shadows of regret flickering across his face. "Clara, maybe you can find a way back, but we need to let the past die," she said, voice steady, a quiet strength flowing through her. Peter nodded slowly, the weight of his mistakes heavy in the air. "I'll find my way, I swear it." With each promise spilled into the air, Clara felt her heart sigh with relief. The past had haunted them long enough. There was no room for darkness anymore, only hope. As they stood together, a sense of unity formed between them, flickers of light illuminating their way forward. Clara grasped Mia's hand tightly, knowing this was a rebirth. "Together, we can face anything. The truth is our strength." The ruins of shadows faded into distant memories, and in their place rose a tapestry of possibilities. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the new path beneath her feet. And as they stepped forward, hand in hand, they faced the dawn of a new day. "Remember," Clara whispered, "we shape our destiny." The fragile yet powerful bond wrapped around them, whispering of hope. But as they ventured into the light, a haunting thought lingered. Would the shadows truly fade, or merely wait for another chance to return? And just like that, the tale surged forward, weaving itself into a new beginning. But your journey doesn't have to end here. If you want to dive deeper into Clara's unfolding adventures, you have to subscribe right now to this channel. Don't miss a single exclusive story that's waiting for you. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Your engagement is what keeps this community going. Also, flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. I want to hear your interpretations, your excitement, and what you think is next for these characters. And finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see how Clara's journey unfolds. Join this adventure. Your support is vital to help us spread these stories.